So thanks everybody for joining today on a busy day to get some overview of how to become an effective designer of your marketing strategy in the VUCA world. So I won't take much of your time. I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Vidya Priya Rao, and I'm the founder and director of Innovators Marketers Touchpoint. We're basically a customer experience marketing and design thinking consulting firm. I also write often in People Matter, CXO Today, Customer Think, Your Story, and recently also got featured in Express Healthcare. I'm also pursuing my PhD in the area of design thinking. I'm working with a software company to help them become a future ready and a customer centric organization using design thinking. So that's a little bit about me. And at Innovators Marketers Touchpoint, we basically do four things. We help our clients understand buyers. We help them apply design thinking principles to build a design-led innovation culture and revisit their digital strategy to become a future-centric and a customer-centric organization. So that's primarily what we are into. Today our agenda is to help you understand what VUCA means to us as marketers and what it means to our customers. And how do we distinguish between the market noise and a paradigm shift in our communication or our strategy as marketers. We will also try and see what are the kind of new tools and techniques that you would require in this, you may call it a digital era, the experience economy, whatever, the different names, the VUCA world, but you need these new tools. We will also look at how do we ensure that our teams are equipped to handle this change that as an organization we all have to embark on. So keeping this in mind, when we are talking about we are in the VUCA world, so VUCA has multiple definitions, and so VUCA, when we are talking about the V, volatility, stands for the changes that we are seeing in the nature, the dynamics, and the speed of change that we're seeing in the market. The uncertainty is all about the lack of predictability and the possibility of surprise, because we just are not sure what's going to happen next. And the complexity speaks about a multiplicity of confounding forces. Today we are having so many different ways in which we can reach out to the customers. There are so many different ways in which they are wanting to communicate with us, and the number of tools and platforms that we have at our disposal is increasingly becoming difficult for us to manage. And ambiguity is all about the difficulty of identifying what's really happening with this volatile demographics, uncertain sales environment, complex interactions with the emerging technology, and ambiguity about who this consumer of the future will be for us. Because increasingly we are seeing that players who were not earlier in our space are also entering in. I mean, who could think that Amazon would also be selling a car? They started as an internet portal, grew on to become a marketplace, and now today, if you look at the offerings of that marketplace, there's just no end to it. So with technology, we're seeing a lot of changes that are happening, and how that is going to impact our brand is something that we all are very unclear about. So let's try to understand this VUCA from the customer's point of view, and what is this response from our end. So the customer sees a lot of communication across different channels and is a little confused. So as a result, what they basically see is inconsistency in communication. The way we interact with the customer in a Facebook or Twitter A traditional media, a traditional channel is very different, and as a result, it's very important for us to decide when we want to personalize the message. It needs to be according to the medium, the context, and the profile of this target to whom we are trying to connect to. So that's the kind of fundamental shift that we are seeing. And as marketers, it's very important for us to have this coherent voice across all the media channels that we are using to communicate with them. The uncertainty, is all about difficulty in anticipating the benefits. The internet era has thrown up a lot of options for the consumers, and they are also equally confused because of the plethora of options that they have with them, and they're unsure about what benefits would be the different service providers be offering, and what are the guarantees that they can anticipate, what are the tangible proof of concepts, the quality of service that they can get from their service providers. And as omni-channel channeling is a norm, there is no single uh, way to possibly treat a like if a point of sale customer differently than an online buyer. So they want that uniform experience, and it's very difficult for them to experience a different experience at your store and something different in your online channel. The third challenge, or the third facet, the complexity, multiple factors to consider in the buying decision. So buying was never easy because sometimes it's just not our individual decision. There are multiple stakeholders, and today with the different views that are available on the internet, it's becoming increasingly difficult for them to go ahead and make that purchase. And as a result, as a marketer, our duty is to ensure that the value proposition that our product or service or offering has for the customers is easier for them to understand and comprehend across the different channels, and there's a consistent message across the different channels. The last facet of the consumer confusion is the ambiguity piece. So they have trouble grasping a generic pitch. I mean, we all today know, and we still compare as marketers, that the attention span of the consumer is shortening. In fact, it's less than that of a goldfish. So 6 to 7 seconds is what I can get the consumer's attention for. So when we write a generic one-liner, it gets very difficult for them to even understand what is it that your brand stands for. So it becomes very important for us to help them with personalized messages that would help them better understand what is it that we have for them, what is the value that we are trying to provide to them. So in the wake of all these customer expectations in the VUCA world, there's a fundamental shift in the way marketing is functioning. So earlier, when the digital era started, we all were talking about spray and pray. So there were hordes of, even now if you look at, there's a lot of spam emails that we get, which just ends up in our spam folder, or we end up marking them as spam. There's a lot of content overload that happens, which customers see because everyone is trying to send them a message. Those banner ads sometimes gets irritating when they are following us. As a result, there are also other vendors which have come to help consumers by aiding them with spam filters or setting up pop blockers, or they have also, each customer in their own way has figured out a way how to ignore the ads, be it via your mobile marketing initiative, or be it your online initiatives, or some of your traditional initiatives. So today's customers actually want brands to care about them. And if I were to say, this concept is not rocket science, because for companies who have got this, they have cracked the gold mine or the diamond mine. And today's consumers are entirely self-directed. So they want you to give them the flexibility and the option to decide how they want to communicate with you, when they want to communicate with you, and uh, and the need, and they want the kind of information they need uh, at any given channel that you're making available to them. The next change that shift we are seeing in marketing is from guesswork to actionable data. So today, there's a lot of data that we are capturing, but often we are not very sure how to utilize it or how to put it to action. And this is where we need to start looking at also becoming a little bit of a data-driven organization to try and understand how can we monitor each and every consumer touch point, and what is that interaction, is it making or breaking the connect with the customer. There's access to this data and dedication to basically optimize this data in real time is what would help us stand out in front of our audience. So it would help us to reach to our consumers at an individual level, meet their needs based on the information that we know and that we can trust. So there's a lot of things that we need to do. The next aspect of the shift is from selling to storytelling. No one wants to be pushed about you buy this or you buy that. I very well know when I want to buy and how I want to buy it and from whom. Maybe I can allow myself to be influenced, but only up to a particular extent. Uh, I so when I talk about storytelling, I couldn't resist sharing this image that I found on the internet from this website called Best Work. So basically, you're seeing the story of a jacket, and as a consumer, I may have my own set of memories wearing this jacket, maybe going to the first rock concert, or it could be meeting my fiance when I was in Paris, or met someone at a wedding reception, or it could be a special gift from someone I care and love for. So it's about connecting them with ways they can feel connected to the product, making it a special occasion from them. So whether you're a B2B or a B2C, it doesn't matter, but it is about, instead of selling and pushing your product, it is about how can you become that storyteller to help them connect and engage with the brand better. So as a result, all of this translates to basically the need to engage to build a relationship with the customer, instead of pushing message to our clients, about pulling the client to the message that we are trying to convey to them. It's not a one-way communication where you just keep dumping information on them, but it's about interactive conversation with your customers so that they can also share their opinion, thoughts, feelings, likes, dislikes with you. And instead of many to one, it is one to many or a one-to-one personalization that we are talking about. And we're talking about return on involvement, and it's not about just a return on marketing investment. I invested so much money in this event or in social media, and what do I get in return? It is about the involvement that we are talking about. And instead of charging for everything, possibly in the Creative Commons world, if we were to survive, we're talking about a freemium model where we give something to the customer for free and start charging them for select services. So the next point that I would like kind of bring into your notice is, how do we really distinguish between a true paradigm shift and a marketing noise? Sharing an Airtel advertisement which at one end talks about 60 days, 60 deals, and if one were to try and get into the nitty-gritties, it's very difficult for a consumer to just go on that particular day and try and send an SMS or whatever way they have asked you to communicate with that brand to get that offer, which would just be momentary. But if you look at as consumers of data, I mean, we all know how cheated and let down sometimes we feel at the need of the hour when uh, we need data, and for some reasons our data pack has got expired, and the way the brands were fleecing us, or but at the same time, when we had those unused data with us, we were not being reimbursed for it. So now this new communication or the shift that Airtel has brought about in the telecom industry, one could say that it is in the wake of Geo or it could be anything else, but nevertheless, they are in lines with what the market expectations are, and have brought in this change. And this is what we call as a paradigm shift, and which is not a market noise per se. So the revised VUCA that we are talking about is all about how do you shift from this volatility to having a vision to where your organization needs to shift to, from uncertainty, understanding, and empathizing with the consumer. The difference between understanding and empathizing with the customer or the consumer is understanding is when you know about the customer, about what are their needs, likes, dislikes, etc. But empathy is when you know how they feel when they are not getting what they want or what they need, the frustrations that they are going through, and because of that kind of emotional disbalance or emotionally how they get affected is what empathy is all about. From complexity, it is about bringing in that clarity as to what is it that your brand stands for, what is it that you're trying to offer, and from ambiguity, agility, the speed to respond at a very short notice. So yes, that's what today as marketers we need to do in the VUCA world. And with this, it's important that we get ourselves out of the comfort zone and start getting curious about what is it that we need to know about the unknown, so that we can become we can shift to this new VUCA world. And it is all about asking ourselves questions as to how do we grow, how do we lead this digital revolution, how do I become a disruptor or do I get disrupted, how can we co-create with our customers so that we are creating a product or a solution which is more closer to the customer. How do I automate some of my activities so that I can free up my resource time to spend more time to understand and empathize with this elusive customer? How can, as a brand, become more responsible? And of course, it's a no-brainer at the end of the day. It's very important for us to understand that it's a team effort. As an individual, you only can do as much, and it's the team that finally would be helping us reach the goals. So to reach this new vision, to meet this new vision, it's important that you require new tools. So we propose new set of lenses which helps you become a human-centric or a people-centric organization. That some of the tools that you use is to understand more about the person to whom you're trying to sell your consumers better, empathizing with them, understanding the journey of your customer with your brand right from the time before they're considering to start and they're trying to evaluate your brand, to the time they've purchased, used, and a time which comes up for renewal to see whether they want to continue with using your product or services, or they would like to go to some other service provider. It's also about the value proposition that you offer them, not just to the customers, but also to your partners, your employees, is something that we need to look into. We also are talking about the kind of conversations that you need to have across the different channels and to engage with them, to help them understand the value that you have to offer for them. It's also about the costs that you will incur while you're doing that, and how do you balance that vis-a-vis the profit and the service that you would like to provide yourself and differentiates. There are different tools that are proven out there which are available in the industry. So we have a buyer persona, canvas, the empathy maps, the touch point analysis, the value proposition by Alexander Osterwald, the service design principles. So there are tools. So there are tons of tools available out there. So depending on the maturity of your organization, the stage at which you are in, it would help the organization decide as to what is it, which tool would be appropriate at that given time. So why, as I've been doing a lot of talking, I just have a quick, want to check with, are there any questions before I proceed further? So you could just write it in the chat box if you have any questions. I'm just opening up a quick survey out here. If you could just share your thoughts, it would be great, and then we could proceed further. Okay, I see some responses are talking about aligning sales and marketing. Few are talking about ROI for the marketing budget, target content for your audience, securing, identifying relevant technologies, and few, it's all of the above. It would be great if others could also share your feedback. Well, I slowly see the responses trickling in. Well, we have 6 people responding so far, so it would be great if the others could also respond in, so that I can close the survey. So quick share based on some of the responses that we've had from all of you. So yes, we see a mixed bag of responses, and let's see how much can I address as to how each of these could get addressed in due course, or we could always have a separate one-on-one chat at a later date. So as we spoke about some of the new lenses that you're looking at, you also need to apply a new thinking. See, typically in businesses, when we're trying to solve problems, the difference between solving a problem using design thinking and the traditional techniques that we use is the empathy piece, about understanding that consumer is an area where we really did not have too much of tools and techniques at our disposal, and that's what design thinking comes with. So this is a framework by Stanford's D School. There are a lot of different frameworks of design thinking, but this is something which is one of the easiest to understand and adopt. And by and large, each one of them speak the same thing at the end of the day. It's just the way the English has been reworded, and how the different activities that you do at the different phases has been regrouped. That's basically the prima facie difference. So notice is about sensing what are the changes that are happening in the market even before it becomes mainstream. So right before you kind of just start sensing some changes, how do you start noticing that? And then see how could that impact your user in the future, your customers in the current as well as in the future, and what are the kind of problems or frustrations that they're dealing with on a regular basis, which as a brand that we could help resolve. The define is about actually reframing the problem, because there are often times when we see a problem in front of us, we could be treating the symptom and not the actual root cause of the problem. So it's very important for us to understand the root cause of the problem and then reframe the problem so that we can start looking at the right appropriate solutions. And that's what we do in the ideate stage, where a cross-functional team typically gathers together to brainstorm and identify different alternative solutions, and then you basically start converging by picking the one that makes most sense, and then you start building prototypes and start showing the prototype early on to the consumer so that you get their feedback and quickly you can make the necessary changes before you're ready for that big bang rollout. So that's the difference that we are talking about when we're trying to apply design thinking instead of those traditional techniques, when we've almost built that perfect product and we take it to the market and we realize that this is not what I wanted. And reflection is what further could you do to improve this particular product so that it starts getting better traction out there in the market. So if I were to kind of put it under two sections in this problem solving that we are talking about, the first piece is trying to find the right marketing problem that we need to address, and the second piece is about the right set of solutions that we need to have to connect better with our customers. The other aspect about design thinking that I like to share is the kind of plethora of options and possibilities that this technique gives us. So in the traditional thinking, it would be like, if I were to just do a simple math, it would be just one option that we are talking about. So discovering what is right, and you have a so-called correct answer. But in design thinking, it gives you multiple possibilities, and it's important that you figure out which is the best one, keeping in mind the context, the situation, the scenario that you are in. We also spoke about improving the service experience. So today we all understand, whether I'm an automobile manufacturer or I'm a traditional player who's known for the services industry, being in hospitality, retail, etc. I am a service business. So it's very important for us to try and compare and contrast our service with other service providers. And here, when we are talking about other service providers, we're also talking about this liquid expectation that is set in the minds of our consumers with brands like Uber, Ola, Amazon, where that convenience, the ease, the speed at which they're able to connect with the customer is something that they are expecting from other brands as well. So you just not get compared with your competitors in your industry, but also with these indirect competition who have brought in this ease and convenience. So it's about at the different stages, right before they are thinking about buying your product or service, to when they start beginning to engage with you. during uh, the experience, when they're experiencing your product, to the post usage. So it's very important that where you fare and how is it that you want to differentiate yourself, because this is the two differentiators. So today, if you go to a coffee shop and you're seeing two different coffee shops and you see similar price points, uh, which one would you prefer? If this were the question, the answers would be the one which gives me a better service, or where the music they play is good, or the ambience is good. So these are some of the factors that determine where I want to go and enjoy this cup of coffee. So let's look at how a car manufacturer, Tesla, has designed their company's brand core about how do they move fast, and the speed which is affecting Tesla's competitive advantage as an electric car manufacturer. This characteristic of this organization culture highlights the importance of the employees' capability to rapidly respond to the trends and the changes in the market, in which the organization culture is facilitating resilience through the speedy responses to current issues and the challenges of the automotive industry. So, this is the reason where the CEO Elon Musk is promoting reasons from what they call as the first principles, which involves identifying root factors to understand and solve problems. Through this, company corporate culture, employees use first principles in fulfilling their jobs. They're also having a training program to orient their human resources to the features of its organization culture, which is basically about moving fast, do the impossible, constantly innovate, resonate from these first principles. You can take a look at their website, which has details about it, and we are all in, because every individual employee of the organization has to be committed to this change that we are talking about, and we need to break through the silos that we have in our departments, because that's what make our customers walk away from us. So let me give you a small example about a retail company, and if I were to say that in 2025 as a brand, how do I see my life is getting impacted? So how do I live my life? How do I shop? How do I market to my consumers? And how do I decide what to wear? So let's look at how my life today in 2017 is. I could possibly be a consumer who works full-time in an organization, or I'm a freelancer picking and choosing a job at my will. I have also got hooked on to a little bit of on-site purchasing on and off, possibly when they have a good offer running, or for the pure sake of convenience, about purchasing anytime, anywhere, on the go. I'm talking about how do I go about deciding to buy. As I said, a retailer who can offer me an instant gratification, he grabs my attention. And the environmental credentials is nice to have, that you don't employ children, child labor, or you don't promote, is a nice to have for some of them, for some of the consumers, and they're very picky and choosy. And how do I shop? I'm still trying to figure out a balanced way of trying to work with online and the brick and mortar stores. I see a disruption in the traditional supply chain in the way I buy my products. And as marketers, we're also looking at new routes to market to serve the bottom of the pyramid. So you're seeing a lot of brands having ways to reach out to this segment. So if I were to look at how will I engage with the brands in 2025, we're talking about a love for convenience. So it's all about how easy does it get and how effortless is the retail experience, the better. And especially if we're looking at the millennials, they're increasingly expecting the latest technology tools to be applied right from the time they are researching the product through the purchases, shipping, and delivery. So convenience is the mantra that will help accelerate and power this, payment revolution. There's different methods of payment that we are talking about, and also enabling mobile checkouts in the fitting rooms. Talking about emerging fulfillment technologies. So yes, that's what we are talking about as we increasingly get on into 2025. We're also talking about a preference for visual and experiential retail, where millennials expect not only impulsive and interactive customer journey, but also fun and a one-of-kind experiences supported by technologies like augmented reality, maybe to a certain extent artificial intelligence if it's applicable. And we're trying to see how for example, internationally, the home improvement chain Low has done substantial amount of work in trying to use AR, taking the wraps of trying to include this in-store smart shopping app that layers a to-do list over a store map and also lets shoppers click on the products viewed. So you can also see that with a lot of the e-commerce brands where you might do that repetitive purchases when you're talking about a big basket where you've done some shopping in the past, and then when you're again trying to go back, you have the earlier to-do list that's already available for you to pick from, and then just add or delete whatever you want to make that purchase. So desire for complementary products and services. So based on their experience for this, convenience, millennials also see services such as banks, dry cleaners, and the cafes or bistros to be a natural extension of retail. So they're seeing that how could you start adopting, and we are seeing some of the stores, the leading brands in the country, starting to offer these kind of complementary services. There's also a disclaim for traditional sales events and promotions. So as I said, we don't want to be pushed into something in a particular season where a sale will be on. But we are looking at how can we have maybe a personalized sale or a real time based on my interest. What kind of trade sales events and promotions that I could be looking at. And retailers will use this avenues to offer discounts on slow moving inventory. So the way a sale gets conducted may possibly need to be relooked at going forward in the future. And there's a lot of enthusiasm from content. So today, if you're looking at with the availability of smartphones, people taking selfies and clicking up there when they're trying a new outfit or when they're trying to do something is increasingly on the rise, and you'll have to figure out how you can capitalize on that to help you promote your brand with the kind of content that is getting created by our consumers. So when we are talking about new ways to manage demand, there are three things that we need to take into account. Some of the things that would evolve is about the circular economy, which is about traditionally, of course, industrial systems have been talking about it. So where you make the item gets used and then it gets returned back and recycled for use. So how is it that a retailer can start adopting these principles about attributes of a circular economy, where the products that they have sold comes back recycled and for their own brands, businesses, or the social credentials. So if, for example, you're seeing some of the shops like flyrobe.com, where women or men can rent clothes online, or they've used a cloth for some time and they see that they are bored of wearing the same outfit, and they sell it, and online portal is buying it and then making it available for other people. So we're seeing increasingly a lot of such brands like Rent a Closet, Rent designer saris, or Gorenti, which again promotes this return and reuse of the retail, some of the retail products. Subscription economy is about subscription-based companies are also exploring about how can you personalize the services. So the business model of any subscription basically is about a payment on a particular date by renewing the services on a monthly, quarterly, half yearly, or an annual basis. So how are we seeing that one can develop brand royalties in the retail segment in the subscription economy, categorizing their services in the lifestyle categories such as sports, fitness, rather than by the product segments. So those new service extensions that we are talking about would attract shoppers through ongoing education, support, and service packages. So we're going to be seeing a lot of activities that's happening around this subscription economy. And then we are talking about the sharing of economy with the millennials' fondness to basically collaborate, this collaborative consumption that they have will fuel the rise of this sharing economy retail entrance. So, for example, out there in the US, there is one called Rent the Runway, where the online services has close to uh, 8 million plus members, and they've started opening this physical store. So you're also going to be looking at increasingly where people will have to be present across multiple channels uh, uh, to meet the needs of the customer in this digital era. So, in a nutshell, if I were to try and look at 2025, how will I shop? It's going to be a blend of online and in-store shopping. How will I live my life? Maybe a nomadic life, anytime, anywhere, any place, and connectivity beyond smartphone tablets. So, what do I decide to wear? Possibly, we are talking about 3D printing and moving towards a personalized wardrobe. Now, one of the cribs of consumers in the retail space, especially for garments, would be that they don't get the right fitting clothes for them, and especially for people who are on the heavier side. So I guess 3D printing is going to be coming forward as one of those solutions where it enables people to have their personalized wardrobes, and where they can choose the color on the fly, and get a wardrobe of their choice. And it's also going to be products where environmental credentials is becoming a must. It's no more a nice to have feature, and consumers will be increasingly wanting to ensure that you are a credible brand and not abusing the society. And how do I consume or market to the consumers? It's more about understanding them, the motivation, the engagement, and the behavioral change which you would want to bring about in your consumers. So yes, that's what we are talking about. So it's all about creating the shared value for the different set of stakeholders that we are talking about. So as a customer, for the customers, what it means is stores are redefined, technology to respond to their changing needs, getting it to them wherever they are, and best service instant gratification is what is it that we are talking about. A colleague or a potential colleague, it's about you being the best place to work, where we're talking about meaningful roles for them, opportunities to learn and grow within the organization, competitive rewards based on what is it that they are delivering. If you are a brand with a larger reach and you have a global presence, it's about how do you model your business and how do you ensure that there is a consistent delivery of the KPIs across the different entities in the globe, and having the right set of people and processes to support this growth. For shareholders, it is about delivering the financial KPIs and ensuring a sound corporate reputation. For suppliers, it is about how can you co-create with sharing the best practices with them and helping them also grow in the process. From a community perspective, it is about how does your brand, and as we are in India, so that's why I've written Indian families, but of course you're a global brand, you would need to look into how does the vitality of whichever country you're in, the families, prosperity of the families in the retail community, and how are you in sync with the environment. And last but not the least, we're also talking about the government regulations and how compliant is your organization and participating with the regulators to make the most and build a retail industry. So that is what we would be talking about the way forward. So in all of this, it's very important for us to understand our people and how do we ultimately foster the values of what if and what not will ensure the right kind of culture in the marketing department. So it's absolutely imperative to promote a culture that rewards the correct behaviors of the team and also rewards agility. However, while developing these values, it's very important that it begins with the senior management commitment, as they will set the tone for the department and they will be the ones who will have to sell new ideas to other parts of the businesses. So although it starts at the top, but a company must also ensure that these values run through all levels of the organization and the workforce. This starts with hiring agile and creative thinkers in the first place. It also means that businesses need to invest in the current workforce and retaining them through recognition and empowerment. So gone are the days when someone could just have a stick approach, but there's got to be an equal mix of care. And today, increasingly, employees are looking for meaning for what they're doing in their work lives. And this calls for a shift in the mindset for the team dynamics. So from a profit-making entity, you need to start looking at the purpose of your business. From a huge hierarchical structure, you're trying to look at a network organization as to how best can you leverage your network to start growing. From being a private organization and not sharing to a relatively transparent organization and sharing what matters with the concerned people, instead of just planning and and talking about bringing the best product. It's about a mindset where you're willing to experiment, fail fast, learn by doing. So that's the kind of attitude that we are talking about. And instead of controlling and becoming a control-centered organization where you tell employees what to do, it's about empowering them, because if you want them to come up with new ideas and thought processes and share their views and if that makes business sense, if you want them to start contributing, it's important that you give them that freedom to start thinking. So as a CMO, we see that you basically need to become a chief experience officer. So that would help you rethink what you sell, will help you rethink about your customers and try and understand what is that they're struggling with and focus on the problems as to what is it that is preventing your customers from adopting this transformation that you want them to go through. So yes, these are some of the basic tips that we could put up. Of course, there are extensive detailed discussion that we could have on each of the lenses by itself as a separate topic as to how you could use it in the best way. So I'm now open to questions from the team. So please share your questions uh, on the chat box, and it would be great to learn from you and take a feedback about whether you found this session useful, and how could be better in our next webinar. Thank you. I'm also sharing a quick survey, so it would be great if you could just respond to that. So thanks. I'm sharing this poll results with you. Only 2 have responded, but nevertheless, uh, it's good to see that some organizations have started taking the initiatives in the right areas. So here are my contact details. My mobile number is 80800155500, and my email ID is available with you. So feel free to reach out in case you have any questions that you may have, or something we haven't addressed. And I definitely look forward to your feedback, and I'm open to questions now. So please do share your questions in the chat box.